the reason for this is because I'm Latin, so I tend to move my hands a lot, so this way I can just... I'm going to read something to you. I figured that would be appropriate. It's called It's Only Water. The minute the doors to the elevator closed, I knew I had missed the only water fountain on my way to the doctor's office. Still perspiring from my run, I cursed at not having packed a bottle of water. I would have to drink from the water cooler in the waiting room. It was not a regular water cooler. I once had taken a cup from that cooler minutes before I was calling to the doctor's office to hear the results are concerned. It has been years since I heard those words, and I have not yet taken a sip from that water again. The thought of unleashing a set of events by drinking from that water scares me. I smile at my own absurdity. Trying to calm my mind, I scanned the room and spotted a woman crying while her mother grabbed her back. I wanted to tell her that I had been there years ago, silently crying in the waiting area full of people who appear much calmer and much older than I was. I was younger, too young to be here, the nuclear technician had said. I could offer that to her, tell her that one day her life will resume normally, or as close to normal as she allows it to be, like mine does. But the cup in my hands brought me back to reality. How could I give reassurance to this woman when I was standing there wondering what drinking from that cooler would do to me in a few months when I must return for my test results? Fear still rules my life as it will hers. I could tell her that the fear will never leave her, but at some point it will be put away on the shelf to be taken out every so often when an event triggers it. It will no longer control her life, only segments of it. I could also tell her that her life changed the moment she heard her diagnosis and will never be the same. It will now have a purpose it did not have before. It will now have a sense of urgency and a thirst for accomplishment. I can tell her that the friends who knew her before would likely won't remain with her after, but new ones will come across her path. I can tell her that she's blessed to be there with a chance to fight a battle others lost from the very beginning. Her sobs told me she was not ready to hear any of it. She wanted to wake up from this nightmare and my reality would not be welcome yet. I poured the second cup of water and walked over to the person taking my blood when my name was called. She laughed at my silly remarks as I sat down. I felt better. I was my smart ass self again. After all, this water cooler was not the same as it was that day, and today I did not hear those words. I chose this because although my book is not about my experience, that experience facing cancer shaped my life and altered my life in different ways. I hate to give cancer any credit as anything positive in your life, but the experience and what we draw from it is whatever you make of it. There are some very negative things that came out of that experience. My fear is one of them. I become irrational. I can hardly function a couple of days before my test. You don't really want to be around me when I'm facing my 6-month appointment. But there are other things that became evident, were probably in me, but I had not tapped into that energy that didn't have come out. And there is the empathy that I feel as I felt for that woman who was crying that day. That empathy, those of us who have been there, only us can have it. And I'm positive that no one can possibly understand the fear, the anguish, the despair of facing cancer unless you've been there. So part of that experience is here, but not much of it. Why? Because this book is short essays of a reflection of life, and I wanted to make it a positive book. Because just the fact that I'm here, it's a positive thing. And the fact that I've been able to fight this is a positive thing. So this book it's a reflection of life. What I've done with it is, I always write. So just to kind of give you a background, disregard the accent, I write all the time. And a lot of times it makes it to print, sometimes it doesn't. And it was suggested by a friend, she's a professional writer, that I should publish. So I took out of quite a few essays that I have, I took about 80 of them, and that's what's in this book. It is by a reflection of life, reflections of life. It's just anything. And when you read it, those of you who will read it, will find it familiar. The reason why that is, it's because I write about life. I write about raising children. I write about running, my passion. I write about friendship, about love. I take a thought and I expand on that, and I reflect on it. I reflect on what I did raising my children. I question myself and what I could have done better, or what I did well. I talk about love. All the first time I was in love, I talk about the man who was in my life for many, many years, and who took me to the chemo ward, what I was saying, without ever complaining. I talk about friendship. And I also question life. I question and I challenge my views and your views. I challenge friendship sometimes. I challenge society. I challenge my own views on many aspects. But through all of that, and above all of that, I always find hope. I always find hope in what I've been through, what I'm going, what I'm facing. And I always try to find something good in all of that we're experiencing. So that's what this book is about. It's not a book it's not a diary. You're not going to find secret details about me. Perhaps the most personal part is my illness. That I do talk about in more detail. And not in the detail of, it's not a sequence of steps of how it happened, what happened that morning. I talk about feelings. And you'll find one, which is the one that I had chosen before to bring to you, which is called That Time Again. And it's what we experience when we have that fear, when we face that, when we wake up that morning and we close our eyes and we say, God, please let this be a nightmare. Because we don't want to wake up to realize that we have been diagnosed. So that's what this book is about. It's about 80, 85 reflections of life. Some of them will make you laugh. Some of them will be like, oh, why did she even bother with this? Some of them you feel are very, very familiar to you. And some of them will challenge your views. So, again, that's what I wrote here. And if you have any questions about the book, let me know. Yes?
Why did you choose the title of the book?
Because it is it's a phrase I heard many, many years ago. It was something about why do I love him? Because it is he, because it is I, something like that. And a lot of times when people ask questions, why are you doing this? Why do you do this? Why don't you? Because it is I. That's who I am. So I thought that was an appropriate title because really, whatever my choices are in life, they're made because it is I.
Myriam, tell us a little bit about the Celebrate Life. I've introduced you during the night to a few people who have been recipients of the grant, and they've been, as I said, I get all the credit, but really the credit is in your hands, and I know it's such an edifying thing, I'm sure, for you to meet these fine people and talk to them. And tell us how you started this, what was your inspiration, and, some of the things that maybe people can get involved with the race for next year, moving forward.
Sure. Well, I'm a runner, and runner it's a passion I found. It's one of those things that you usually had found them earlier, because it really got me through my treatments. When I was sick, I kept running, and I remember telling myself, if I can make it up to that hill, that means that I'm going to make it to the next treatment, and that's what kept me going. So it was a couple of years after, with another person, we talked about doing the race, and it really didn't take more than 20 seconds to say we should give the money to Citizens United to overcome cancer, because that group symbolizes everything that I believe in. It's a group that helps survivors. And being a cancer survivor, being a cancer patient, what I found was that, yes, I totally believe in research. If it wasn't for research, I wouldn't be here. And so much money goes to research, and it's great. Again, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that. But trying to get money out of some organizations, and I won't even name them, it's so difficult. It's nearly impossible to get money. And when I was going through all of that, and all these bills, and all these phone calls from lawyers from 8 to 8, because they do respect the, whatever their act that prohibits them from calling before 8 a.m. or 8 p.m., but they do call it between those 12 hours. I wanted to make it easy. No red tape. For God's sake, you're going through enough already. If you need money, you tell us you need money. You have cancer, here is the check. That's just as simple as it is. Yes, we are obligated to show some receipts in case we get audited, but the purpose was to make it simple, and that we have accomplished. Celebrate Life started 10 years ago, which is celebrated 10th year. And it has become, in the last, I would say, 3-4 years, it symbolizes survival, symbolizes support, more than anything, the support to the person going through it. And this year, I remember talking to Tom and saying, if I give you $5,000, it'll be too much, because we just kept Sandy and all the donations were going there. We were not getting, I wasn't getting hardly any money. Corporations that gave me 500 were giving me 50, 75. Well, all of a sudden I started getting people raising pledges, and we're talking about just telling Tom, people who raise the most amount of money, I'm not even from this area. They're not going to benefit from this. They don't know anyone who will benefit from it. They're doing it because they believe in the cause, because they lost somebody, or because they have someone who went through it. And there was such an outpouring of support that instead of the $5,000 that I was going to give him, I tried to enlarge it as much as I could. It's $41,000. Is that not one penny goes to anything administrative. Yes, I do have to pay for expenses, like with breakers, like porta potties, I mean, we have to have for race day. But we don't get, there are no salaries, there are no dinners, there are no gifts, there's nothing other than this is your money, you need it, give it to you. That's as far as that goes. So, celebrate life, even though it takes place one day a year. Donations are open anytime. A friend of mine, he told me, because he had lost his job, and he had been a support. He's run it 10 years. He had run it 9 years in a row. And I gave him a free entry. And he was so grateful. He said, I'm going to raise money for you. And he sent an email, and what he asked for was $13. That says how many miles people will run. And what he sent in his email made a lot of sense. He said, let's probably change that. It's money you spend in Dunkin' Donuts, McDonald's. And sometimes when I'm facing when somebody wants a donation, it's a cause I believe in. I think, I don't have any to give them. Then I think, you know, when I go and buy this wine, it's $10. So to be honest, here is $20 that that person can use. So money like that, $10, $15, $20, that's what got us to $41,000. That's what said about life.